now we have a keynote speech by a man who probably needs no introduction, very familiar to all of you. He is the founder of Aramex, founder and vice chairman of Aramex, the chairman of Wanda. 10 years ago, when I was a humble database analyst, I used to call him boss. I'm very, very pleased to introduce Mr. Fadi Ghandour.
Morning. Thank you very much. I thought the panel was fantastic. I would have actually loved to have been with you, Abdul Malik, on that panel, rather than stand up here and give a keynote. But and taking the discussion at the on the panel a bit further, I was thinking yesterday, what is it that I'm going to say to you today, and as we think about the future. And as in discussion yesterday, and as we talk about ICT and how ICT is pervasive and everywhere and ubiquitous, and life effectively is totally digital today. So I have 10 things that I'm thinking about nowadays. 10 worries, 10 things, 10 challenges, 10 issues that we need to look at and look at very seriously as we think about the way we live, about life and society in general. So, Nicholas Negroponte, a great digital man, the author of the seminal book, Being Digital. If you haven't read it, you should read it. It was written in 1999. And he says, computing is not about computers anymore. It is about living. So everything that we need to do today as we discuss technology and everything around it is how it affects life and how it changes life in general. So taking that into consideration, then the issue of broadband, the issue of connectivity, the issue of the divide, the digital divide, becomes a human issue. So broadband today and in the future has to become a human right, because everything is going to be digital and everything is going to be delivered through connectivity, and the people that are not connected are having a human right issue. So we need to think about that. Obviously, I don't have answers. I am not a digital person myself, but it's something that we need to think about. Number two, as we discuss being digital, and we look on education in the Arab world, and in the world in general, really. And now the issue of education reform in Jordan and everywhere else is of prime importance. And then when we talk about entrepreneurship, whether entrepreneurship is learned, or entrepreneurship is born, or what we do with it, whether you go to college or not, I'd like to tell you that Joy Ito, some of you know him because he's visited this country, does not have a college degree. And he is today the director of the MIT Media Lab, probably one of the most advanced technological institutions in the world today. Joy was a bartender when he was a teenager. This is his first job. So we need to think about that. When he tried to register a company in one of the Arab countries, and I have to be careful in naming countries here, he was not allowed to be the CEO of the company because he did not have a college degree. Something to think about. And the MIT decided that Joy Ito fits. And it was the first appointment in their history. He was appointed last year with a man that does not have a college degree. Imagine, it's MIT. So, Mina Corbis, executive director of an institute called the Institute for the Future, says the following when she is telling us about education for the future. We are moving away from the model in which learning is organized around stable, usually hierarchical institutions, such as, obviously, schools, colleges, and universities, that for better or worse have served us as the main gateway to education and social mobility. Replacing that model is a new system in which learning is best conceived is best conceived of as a flow where learning resources are not scarce but widely available, opportunities for learning are abundant, and learners increasingly have the ability to autonomously, keyword autonomously, dip into and out of continuous learning flows. So if we talk about education reform outside of the digital space and thinking of it revolving around the classrooms, we are addressing an issue of history, not future, which is what we are doing today, unfortunately. Number 3, when it comes to business and commerce, it is all online. If it is not totally today, it is in the future. For those of us who keep questioning whether e-commerce is happening, think again. E-commerce is it. Okay? Commerce is online, it's digital, whether it's delivered physically or non-physically. In the Arab world, I've stated some statistics yesterday, but I'll mention them today. 66% of MENA consumers today will not go shopping unless they have gone online to do their research. That is digitizing the process of shopping. So they will not go out unless they actually research it. So this will become 100%. I'm sure each and every one of you does that. There are already about 100 million Arab internet users today. At the end of 2011, mobile and cellular penetration was practically 100%, even though 3G and smartphones are still at a very low level, maybe 13, 14%. Maybe it's increasing. It will get there very quickly, believe me, with technology becoming cheaper and cheaper. So B2C commerce in the MENA region will reach, we are told, about $15 billion in 2015. I am addressing the issue of telling you that everything is going to be digital as we go forward. So we need to think about that as we build our own businesses. And then the fourth issue is that commerce is also social. It's also social. So you will find that Facebook, Twitter, and Google are going to be addressing and are already addressing the issue of commerce. So how do we position ourselves to become socially integrated e-commerce businesses, not only selling through traditional websites or through different venues. So, and e-commerce will effectively either go through a marketplace or your own enablement as an own organization. So in terms of real-time comparison, in terms of instant feedback, and in terms of addressing the needs of the clients, everything is and will be social. The future of work is something that we need to think about as we think about the digital age that we are living in today. Time magazine in 2009 wrote a whole feature about the subject. And in the opening of the feature, I'm quoting, 10 years ago, Facebook didn't exist. 10 years before that, we didn't have the web. So who knows what jobs will be born a decade from now. Though unemployment is at a 25-year high, work will eventually return. But it won't look the same. No one is going to pay you just for showing up. We will see more flexible, more freelance, more collaborative, and far less secure work world. It will be run by a generation with new values, keyword, values. And women will increasingly be at the controls. Thinking about that, so companies, my sixth point here is as I think about organizations and companies and entrepreneurs, companies are going to be social structures as we go forward. They are already social structures, but social structures in a digital age is different. It means they're much more decentralized than ever before, much more democratized. The feedback of the 360-degree feedback of the employees no longer is valid, ladies and gentlemen. Sitting with the person that you work for or you're responsible for and evaluating his work is no longer valid. It is him that is evaluating you today, and he is evaluating you online. Go to his Facebook page. Go to his Twitter account. And you will find the democratization of the organization is already here and happening. And every organizational structure has to accommodate for that. And how many of you have not addressed the issue of a story being told about you by a person that works with you in the organization? So we need to think about that. And companies are learning institutions. So as we talk about education, the education inside the organization is going to be a must, because if you want to attract talent and you don't have a proper learning institution inside your companies, you are not going to retain that talent for a single moment. A single moment. So, taking a stakeholder view in the digital age in your organization is here. It's not the future. It is here. How you deal with it is a must. Your employees, your clients, your suppliers, your government regulators, etc., are already watching you and are already giving you feedback instantaneously every single moment of the day, 24 hours a day. Borders are obsolete, and sovereignty is overvalued. People will congregate in the future around interests and not around nationalities. That's my view. Some people would tell you it's the other way around. I tell you that's a challenge that we will have to see in the future. Occupy Wall Street and Tahrir Square are a key example. New York Times ran a piece right when Occupy Wall Street was happening. It was called Occupy Wall Street meets Tahrir Square. And I quote, when they were talking to the people at Zuccotti Park, who were at the core of the Occupy Wall Street. They were talking to a man over there. He says, "Are you ready for a Tahrir moment?" That was the initial call for action for Occupy Wall Street. It was, "Are you ready for a Tahrir moment?" And then he says, "We are using the revolutionary Arab Spring occupation tactics to achieve our ends. And we encourage the use of non-violence to maximize the safety of all participants." We are using the revolutionary Arab Spring occupation tactics. So these are people that are thinking of the long tail of the internet, congregating around interests and not congregating around nationalities. It is irrelevant as we go in the future that we think of ourselves as strictly nationalists. We of our own countries. We will always and we will continue to congregate around our interests. And if we look at all the issues that we are facing today, if you look at Syria today, and I'll politicize a little bit, we are looking at the sovereignty of Syria from a global perspective. So the Syrian government has no issue related to its own internal issues today. Everybody weighs in. So sovereignty needs to be redefined. What does it mean in the digital age that we are living in today? Number 7, watch out for micro, small, and medium-sized companies. They are faster, more agile, and quicker. The internet, broadband, connectivity, cloud computing, open source, and software as service is so empowering that these people will encroach into your business faster than you can even imagine, and they will eat your lunch. Future is about small is beautiful, in my view, and not big. They are the generators of new ideas, because I need 2 minutes. Shukran. Governments. We need to think about that, obviously, as we've heard earlier. The new way of doing business in government has to catch up to the rest of the world, has to be much more digital. Some governments, if you go to Singapore and Dubai today, you will find them offering all sorts of services. Everything that you need today practically in Dubai is offered by government online through an SMS service. You park your car, you find the code, you send the code through SMS, and you effectively have paid for your parking spot. You don't need human interaction anymore. I have registered a company recently in the free zone, in the media free zone, and everything was done through email. You have to pay for it. It's expensive, but you get it through email. So The World Economic Forum came out with a report called The Future of Government. It says the governments of the future will need to adapt and continuously evolve to create value. They need to stay relevant by being responsive to rapidly changing conditions and citizens' expectations, and build capacity to operate effectively in complex, interdependent networks of organizations and systems across the public, private, non-profit sectors. To co-produce, keyword, to co-produce public value. Co-produce means you cannot do it alone anymore. You have to do it with your stakeholders. As recommended in this report, what is needed today is a flatter, if that is possible, a flatter, agile, streamlined, tech-enabled, fast government. Fast government. 9, activism and voices of the individual and non-state actors. So as I've spoke about government, non-state actors are as important as governments today. Non-state actors means you, every single one of us. ICT, the private sector, every single individual is a non-state actor. They make a difference on the ground today as much as government. We need to think about that. The empowerment of the individual because of the digital age is so massive, because everyone is connected and because we don't learn locally anymore. We learn globally, we share ideas, we congregate around the long tail of interests. So what happens in Kenya with Ushahidi, and those of you that don't know Ushahidi and how it has affected and changed the world of Kenya and then effectively the rest of the world in terms of citizen crowdsourcing of the information on the ground of the issues that citizens are facing on the ground over there, tells you how much it is irrelevant to censor. It's not censorable anymore to censor the crowds because the tools are so powerful that you waste your time as government on addressing issues that are not of today's world, they're of yesterday's world. And in Egypt, there's something called harass map. Have you heard of it? Every woman that gets harassed on the street in Egypt today goes online through an app and says, I got harassed on this street, on this block, and by this person. And it will be online. And you don't need a police person. So you name and shame, and you're on there, and you go on that. You go on it, by the way, today, and you will see a map of massive harassment. So, number 10, and my last point, is what I think is very important for each and every one of us in the digital age, is the information and knowledge fatigue and overload. How do we access knowledge? How do we filter it? And how do we make sense of it? Is of supreme importance to us today as individuals, as a human being. So, again, Reuters came up with a report way back maybe 6-7 years ago, called Dying for Business. In that report, it says, 1/3 of managers are victims of information fatigue syndrome. 49% said they are unable to handle the vast amount of information received. 33% of managers were suffering ill health as a direct result of information overload. 62% admitted their business and social relationships suffer because of information overload. 66%, طبعا you can do all sorts of other things with the information that you have, Marwan. So you can throw, well, I won't repeat, I'll tell you offline. 66% reported tension with colleagues and diminished job satisfaction. 43% think that important decisions are delayed and their abilities to make decisions are affected as a result of having too much information. That's all I have. So as we think about the future and as we think about today, and as we address the issue of technology from a computing perspective, it is about life that we need to look at, and what does the digital age do for us as we look at the next generation and the generation after that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fadi. That was very useful.